Vincent learned that you shouldn't look through the door peephole at night during his freshman year at college. During a long break, a student named Connor Evans enthusiastically told the group that if you did this around midnight, you could see many interesting things, sometimes frightening, even dangerous ones. But Vincent didn't really believe in such things, thinking of them as just stories. As a future medical student, he understood that there was no place for mysticism in the life of a modern person. But arguing with Connor, the self-proclaimed expert in all things mystical and magical, was more trouble than it was worth, and Vincent knew this well. He might never have looked through the peephole at night if a new family hadn't moved into the apartment across the hall. This family was incomplete. A young mother named Alice and her 2 5-year-old twin sons, Arthur and Michael. They moved in quietly, with little noise, bringing only a couple of suitcases and a cage with some pet, which was covered with a dark cloth during the day. "Looks like the neighbors aren't wealthy," Vincent's mother remarked at breakfast. Vincent nodded in agreement and buried his nose in his smartphone again. His father put the newspaper aside and said in a half-whisper, "No wonder. She's a single mom. Her husband died. He was a forest ranger, worked in the national park, I think. They say poachers got him. He was in their way, so they took care of him, beat him half to death and left him in the woods. When it got dark, the wolves finished the job. The guys at work said the kids were waiting for their dad in the cabin, but he never came back." Vincent shuddered at the gruesome details, especially the thought of being eaten alive by those you'd spent your life protecting because of your job. Vincent liked Alice at first sight, a slim, pretty, young woman with hair down to her waist. Her children, Arthur and Michael, seemed quiet, but Vincent, who was used to staying up late, knew that wasn't quite true. At least 3 times, he'd heard strange sounds starting around midnight and ending at dawn. They would die down, then start up again for no reason. Vincent was tempted to go to the door and look through the peephole. Maybe he'd see something interesting with the new neighbors, though it was far from certain they'd even come out into the hallway. Then, one morning, intentionally opening the door early, Vincent saw strange stains on the floor. It looked as if someone had tried to wipe some liquid off the concrete, but had only made it worse. Vincent couldn't say for sure if it was blood or not. But the most curious thing wasn't even that. What interested Vincent most was a strange white line drawn with chalk right across the threshold of the neighbor's apartment. "What the heck is that?" Vincent frowned, took out his phone, and snapped a couple of pictures, just in case. At that moment, the neighbor's door opened quietly, and in the gap appeared Alice's pale, drawn face. Vincent coughed awkwardly and quickly hid his phone behind his back. "Hi, what are you doing here so early?" Alice asked in a quiet, emotionless voice. Vincent smiled. "Oh, I heard some noise at night, but didn't come out. In the morning, I decided to check." Alice paled even more, glanced back anxiously, and whispered even quieter. "You did the right thing not coming out. And in general, it's better to sleep at night." Vincent nodded in agreement and was about to go back inside when Alice, wearing only a robe, grabbed his hand. "Don't even think about looking through the peephole at night. It could be dangerous." "Dangerous?" Vincent was surprised. "Come on, this is a high-rise. There's a steel door with an intercom. And code. And all the residents know each other." "Well, do as you want. My job is to warn you," Alice whispered, and quickly slipped back into her apartment. Strangely enough, Vincent decided to discuss the odd situation with Connor Evans, the very same guy everyone in the group considered an expert in all things paranormal. Rumor had it that Connor was even a member of several online communities dedicated to black magic, and had even participated in an exorcism or 2. Who else to ask for advice? Connor listened to Vincent's rambling story in silence, his face skeptical, as if he didn't really believe his classmate. But when Vincent mentioned the chalk line on the floor, Connor perked up. Now that's my area, man. A protective chalk line across the threshold? Looks like your neighbor knows her stuff. That's classic. Sure, a circle is stronger, but a line will do. What do you mean? Vincent asked, surprised. Connor grinned. Come on, what do you think? She's afraid of something from the other side, obviously. That's why she draws the line. What could she be afraid of? Connor thought for a bit. Who knows? Maybe some demon is tormenting her, or the spirit of someone who wasn't laid to rest. There are lots of options. Can we help her somehow? I mean, the neighbor? Connor looked at Vincent with a sly grin. Falling for her, huh? Well, that's fair. Of course we can help. But first, we need to know what we're dealing with. She told you not to look through the peephole, right? That's a clue. Must be something specific. Is your place free tonight by any chance? It's free, Vincent blurted out. My folks are going to the lake house for the weekend. Won't be back until Monday morning. Connor's eyes lit up. Perfect. Tonight we'll check it out. I'll come over around 9 with my gear. We'll see what your neighbor's afraid of. She must be pretty if you care this much. She is, Vincent replied, embarrassed. All right, see you tonight. I'll call before I come, Connor promised, shaking Vincent's hand. Vincent waited for evening with growing impatience, constantly glancing through the peephole at Alice's apartment, but saw nothing strange. Alice's kids came home from school as usual, making a cheerful racket in the hallway. Later, Alice herself ran out to the store for groceries, wearing a thin t-shirt, shorts, and sandals. Stop thinking about her, Vincent whispered to himself. Nothing can happen between you. She's a mother of 2, and you're just a sophomore. Evening crept up unnoticed, and after Vincent saw his parents off to the last train, time seemed to fly. Connor arrived right on time, fully equipped. He took off his heavy backpack and, without a word, began laying out his magical paraphernalia in the hallway. Holy water in plastic and glass bottles, church candles, a massive silver crucifix, and even something that looked like an aspen stake. There was a lot more, the purpose of which Vincent couldn't even guess. But he didn't ask questions. Connor, unlike during the day, seemed tense and silent. Only after he'd emptied his backpack did Connor comment, I've been thinking about the peephole. Probably best not to look through it. That's why Alice hides. There's a dark entity, Vincent. If you see it, it's almost a death sentence. Like a virus with no cure, unless you kill it first. Vincent swallowed nervously and nodded slightly, though he couldn't say he believed every word. Connor could be making it all up to impress people and boost his reputation as a fighter of evil, but really just a show-off. They sat in the living room drinking tea as the old wall clock's hands approached midnight. Vincent's heart beat anxiously when he heard the neighbor's door squeak open. Connor gave him a meaningful look, then rushed to the door, pressing his face to the peephole and licking his lips. Man, your neighbor is something else. Worth the trouble, Connor said. Cut it out. Let me see, Vincent hissed, pushing him aside. What Vincent saw surprised him. Alice stood in the hallway, holding a cage with a pet. The cover was off, and Vincent saw a large white rat inside. Alice put the cage on the floor, opened the door a crack, but didn't let the rat out. The rat didn't seem eager to leave, either. Probably for a sacrifice, Connor muttered. I wonder if she breeds them or buys a new one every day. Alice quickly slipped back into her apartment, locking the door with 2 turns and drawing a chalk line across the threshold, pouring some strange liquid from a plastic bottle over it. Vincent tensed, realizing the most interesting part was about to begin. For a while, nothing happened. The guys took turns watching through the peephole. Then, from the stairwell, strange sounds began, scraping and rustling at the same time. Connor bit his lip hard, took the crucifix and winked at Vincent. Get ready. Don't leave the apartment, no matter what. I'll handle it. The sounds grew louder. Suddenly, the rat in the cage began to screech and throw itself at the bars as if it had gone mad, sensing imminent death, or something worse. The scraping on the concrete grew closer. Vincent shivered, sweat breaking out on his forehead. Connor, on the other hand, was focused, gripping the crucifix and waiting for the right moment to open the door and, like a crusader, confront the enemy. At some point, Vincent regretted the whole thing, but it was too late. The thing climbing the stairs was already on their landing. From Connor's pale face, Vincent knew things were bad. "My God, it's a real forest demon," Connor whispered. "What demon?" Vincent tried to ask, but Connor quickly covered his mouth with his hand. Immediately, there was a sickening crunch, and the rat fell silent. Connor quietly checked the door lock with one hand, gripping the holy water bottle with the other, tucking the crucifix into his shirt. Vincent wanted to grab Connor and stop him, but it was too late. The door burst open, and before his eyes appeared a horrifying sight. On the landing between the two apartments stood something. It moved on all fours and was the size of an adult man. Matted tufts of hair covered its face, if it even had one. Its gnarled, twisted limbs looked more like the branches of a tree than human arms, ending in sharp claws that left grooves in the concrete. The creature's body reeked of rotting eggs and sulfur. Clutching the remains of the dead rat in one of its monstrous paws, it chewed greedily, spraying blood and foul saliva. The sight almost made Vincent vomit, but Connor seemed in his element. Opening the bottle of holy water, he approached and began sprinkling the demon from half a meter away. Instantly, the creature's fur sizzled, and foul-smelling steam poured off it. The monster roared and turned to face its opponent. Meeting the demon's eyes, Connor screamed and reached for the crucifix. Vincent grabbed Connor's arm as he began to chant a prayer. The demon roared, and Vincent heard a terrible message in his mind. "Give me what you took from the forest. It belongs to me alone." Not understanding what was happening, Vincent yanked Connor back. At that moment, the demon struck, its claws leaving a long scratch on the door. Connor kept chanting, oblivious to the world. The demon prepared to pounce, but Vincent pulled the door open, and with a terrible crash, the reinforced door bent. Dragging Connor, Vincent fell into the hallway. And a moment later, the demon was in the apartment. It attacked Connor, sinking its fangs into his forearm. Connor screamed, and Vincent threw everything he could at the monster. Graveyard dirt, the ashes of a suicide, lighters of holy water. The demon roared, but didn't loosen its grip. Connor was almost unconscious, but kept mumbling his prayer. Just then, the neighbor's door flew open, and Alice appeared on the threshold, holding her twins by the hands. "Take them. They're your children, aren't they?" she whispered to the monster. The demon turned sharply and froze, as if listening. Stunned, Vincent looked at Alice and saw tears streaming down her cheeks. 8 years ago, my husband found 2 infants wrapped in wolf pelts deep in the woods. I couldn't have children, so we took them in. But they were yours, weren't they? That's why you killed my husband in the forest. The demon slid off the unconscious Connor and moved toward Alice and the twins. At that moment, Vincent saw the aspen stake lying in a pool of blood, begging to be picked up. The demon was reaching its twisted limbs toward the crying children. With a shout, Vincent rushed at it, driving the stake into its neck, burying it to the hilt in the foul flesh. The demon shrieked and tried to claw at him, but Vincent struck again, lower and even harder. At that moment, everything became clear to Vincent. When Alice's late husband found the abandoned twins and made them his sons, the unlucky ranger had unwittingly brought upon his family an evil with no name. Every night, the forest demon came for Alice's children, scratching at the door, unable to cross the protective chalk line. Moving from place to place, the young mother always brought rats as sacrifices, to appease the creature for one more night. Vincent realized this as the demon collapsed under his blows, leaving behind only the smell of rot and sulfur. In seconds, the creature's body burst into flames and turned to a pile of gray ash on the damp concrete. Vincent called an ambulance for Connor and helped Alice with her children. The doctors said the unlucky exorcist had been born under a lucky star. The wounds missed a major artery by a centimeter. Since then, Vincent always keeps an aspen stake at hand, just in case someone else comes for Alice's children, the neighbor who was endlessly grateful to her savior. Especially since, after all that happened, a special bond formed between them. And who knows, maybe it will grow into something more.